Hey, I got a question for you guys. When you start thinking about how the game has changed, and especially in some spread offenses, and you see a little bit more air raid, airing the ball out. But I know as offensive linemen to your core, running the football, right, controlling the line of scrimmage. How do you feel about that versus teams that are just going to dabble in the run and be pass oriented more often?
Well, in my opinion, if you got an offensive coordinator that's just totally believes in the pass and not the run, well, so be it. Then if you're the O-line coach in that system, it's going to be what it is. And I think you have to look at what you got as players, right? I mean, you can run the spread offense and still run the crap out of the ball. You can see that happening a lot all over the place. 5 receiver sets, sometimes 6, and they're still running the football, whether it's an inside zone, an RPO, whatever it could be. I mean, teams are RPO and everything now, counter, power. It's a lot of fun. And for the offensive lineman, it could be an RPO on power. I'm still running power. So I'm getting in there, getting my work done. And that offensive coordinator can be throwing the ball off his RPO. So
yeah, that's a good point.
I find it exciting right now, the offensive schemes. But at the same time, what's new is old. I think you can look back to some things from the 80s and 90s and 2000s and see some core plays that you go, let's dust that off. Let's add a little wrinkle to it into the RPO piece or into this spread offense, or bring a tight end into the game, which I know you guys like to do sometimes. And you're changing the old, making it new again.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that, Dave? Just in terms of
I totally agree. I mean, I think the bottom line is, from an offensive perspective, I think you have to, whatever it is, your run game, your pass game, the whole offense as a whole has to reflect, your players' abilities and skill sets. It's a little bit different at our level because, we're able to recruit at the university level. So we're always trying to find players who fit what we want to do or what we are doing. High school is a little bit different because, you're not really getting a chance to recruit at that level, and what you kind of get from your feeder system or whatever the situation may be is what you have to be probably willing to be a little bit more flexible and change based on what you have. But I agree. I think there's some spread teams and you can spread it out and still run the rock like Coach said, and the RPOs are really neat and they're really in right now. As long as it's the right read and it's taking advantage of leverage or numbers, just move the chains.
That's it.
But I mean, we go into our season with our run game we're at now with 4 plays.
Yeah.
And we say, okay, which of these 4 plays can these kids run? I mean, and so the first training camp, first game or two is finding out what they can do. And if they could, like one year we're a power team on our run game. Next year we're an outside zone team with our run game because we can't run power. Another year we're an inside zone team. So it just depends upon the personnel you have. One of my biggest pet peeves is an offensive coordinator that'll come in and said, this is what we are.
Yeah.
But you don't have the personnel to be that. So you got to find another way. You got to find some other tool in the toolbox and throw out and come back with something new. I mean, for our playoff game this year, we brought in some really new stuff that nobody'd seen before. We had injuries. We had to make some changes, and if we didn't, and the team we were playing against knew these players were down, we wouldn't be able to run our normal stuff.
Yeah, and it's great. Like if you want to be like a team that lines up with a fullback or in whatever the situation and run power and a bunch of ISO, that's great. But if you don't have a fullback who can do it, or it doesn't matter. Like it's not gonna. It's you got to play to what your strengths are and what you have as personnel. And I've been on teams where or coach teams like at the provincial team where one year we were pretty good at running inside zone, and the next year, and I think we had 2 or 3 starters return, and for whatever reason we weren't great with the inside zone, but man, like we could run the gap stuff a little bit better, and so we had to adjust a little bit, but it's neither is right and neither is wrong. It's just whatever works with the players that you have and what their strengths are.
And that's what you go back to the fundamental piece of the preseason when you're with your minor team or your high school team, and You know, you're talking fundamentals, but then you got to go, okay, what kind of players do I have? What can they do? You know, and as Dave just said, I mean, you could have 2 or 3 of the same guys back from the previous year, and they can't run power anymore. But last year they ran the crap out of power. You got to change what you're doing, and maybe go to a gap scheme. You know, maybe go to zone. There's so many,
Yeah.
you know, variables that you got to try to figure out.